Hey guys, in this video I will show you how you finish the event, the answering machine, the butterfly and the literary critic as easy as possible. So there's a very broken combination of mechanics that we can abuse to finish this no problem. The first step that you have to do is you take the idealist, this one right here, because of its ability to gain armor and lose Eureka. Why this is important in a second, but you have to be also aware of his ability impromptu piece, which says at the end of the round deal 3 damage to a random enemy, and this repeats a couple of times depending on how many current Eureka you have available to yourself. At the end of the round you lose a Eureka, very important, and when you gain access to Eureka you deal 8 damage to a random enemy for each excess Eureka. That is very important. Additionally, you have the ability Creator to gain Eureka, you have the ability Reader to gain armor and lose Eureka. That is a key. Those two things combine with gaining access to the buff Introspection, which leads to you that whenever you roll a dice you gain +1 Eureka. And another buff that you need is Further Truths. That is the most important buff in the entire game, and that is what our entire strategy is based around. It makes it so that whenever Eureka changes, you deal 3 damage and you gain 2 armor. You can actually stack this up, so at 2 stacks you deal 6 damage and gain 4 armor, and so on and so forth. And now we're gonna play through the most difficult parts of this event, and I will showcase to you how this exactly works in great detail. Now, in my first run I was unlucky and I didn't get access to the buff Introspective, but I will leave a timestamp in the comment section down below so you can skip to the part where I actually play with both of these buffs available to me to get like the perfect showcase. But it is even very beneficial to watch a run where not everything goes like as perfect and we do not get access to everything that we want, because you get a grasp of how to play this composition of mechanics better to truly see the whole potential that it has, even if things don't go 100% our way. But yeah, if you just want the absolute perfect showcase, use the timestamp in the comment section down below. And now have fun watching me play this event. Let me showcase what that exactly means in battle number 3. So that is always the first thing that you want to do is you want to stack Further Truths in the very first turn. Additionally, of course, you have to be aware of what your Aleph's ability is. It says at the end of the round you deal 3 damage to a random enemy, and you repeat that process for each Eureka that you have. If you have 2 Eureka you deal 6 damage, if you have 3 Eureka you deal 9, and so on and so forth. And also at the end of the round you lose a Eureka. That is very beneficial, because remember, whenever we change Eureka here, then we deal 3 damage and gain 2 armor, and we do this just like that at the end of every single round. And also a very important thing is that at the end of the when gaining access Eureka, for each access Eureka you gain access to, you deal 8 damage to a random enemy. You can see our ability Creator that gives us 3 Eureka. That would make it happen for us to gain this access Eureka. So those are the 2 abilities that we want to use. Also Reader to gain armor and lose the Eureka. What we never want to use is this red ability Commentator to deal 8 damage. That we never deal damage with our cards. We deal damage by gaining, losing and changing Eureka. That's all we want to do. So what does that mean? That means we never need any red die. So those are the die that we always want to reroll. Got 2 red die again. I got 2 red die again. Please give me something else. Thank you very much. And there we go. So now we don't need that red die. And in order for us to gain a stack of Further Truths, we can use 2 die of whatever color, or yeah, whatever, right? We can use anything. And see, this is also a very, very core part in how to play this, because now that I clicked further truths and I want to use it, they recommend to me that I use 2 yellow die, which I never want to. Why would I ever use a yellow die? I want my yellow die to use my ability reader to gain armor. I want to use the red die that I don't need to gain a stack. See? Boom. I got 1 stack. Now I want to use this again. That is what my first turn, and maybe sometimes the second turn is for, to gain as many stacks of further truths as we possibly can. And so I use 2 die. I keep 1 yellow die so that I can use my ability reader. There we go. Now I have 2 stacks of further truths. Now I use my reader ability to gain an armor and lose a Eureka. And losing Eureka, you know what that means. That changes Eureka. That means I will gain armor and deal damage for each stack of further truths that I have. Here we go. I have 2 stacks of further truths, so 3, 6 damage plus armor, right? Plus 4 armor. And that's how you play this. Now, yeah, of course, we gain an additional card that is also very, very beneficial. More on that when it's actually time. Here again, we rolled. We don't need the red die. We re-roll the red die until it gives us a yellow or a blue die. There we go. And that's what we want. Now we can confirm. So what do? We have to count 2, 2, 1. See, this is perfect. I have 2 die to gain myself a stack of further truths. Exactly what I want. Now I have 2 die to gain Eureka. That changes Eureka, remember? That means we will deal damage. Plus, my ability is that for every excess Eureka, I deal an additional 8 damage. But yeah, that didn't give me excess Eureka, but you can see we deal a tremendous amount of damage. And we will trigger all of our stacks for this further truths. It's actually called musings, again by gaining armor. There you go. Boom, 3. Boom, 3. Boom, 3. At the end of the round, we deal 3 additional damage for each Eureka that is available to us. So let's end our round. Boom, 3, boom, 3. Because we have 2 Eureka. That also triggered further truths for some reason. But yeah, I mean, you get the point, you see? Here again, we rolled red die. What do we don't want? Red die. So we re-roll this. Every single round, right? And then again, see, you have 5 die. You use 2 die to get further stacks of further truths. Remember to always use the red die, because that is what you don't need. Then we gain 3 Eureka that will deal damage, right? And our damage, it scales. We will do more and more and more and more damage every single round. And we gain more and more and more armor every single round, because we gain more and more and more stacks of further truth. And you see, I'm still at full HP because I constantly also gain armor. Now you have to keep in mind that in this event you keep your HP while you move on. For each subsequent stage, like, you always keep the same amount of HP. So you want to make sure that in the very first battles you don't lose any HP, so you have enough HP to conquer the last stages. But with the strategy that I'm showing you, this will be absolutely no problem whatsoever. Now you can see the buffs that you get at the end of battles. Battle number 2 and number 3, I think, are the buffs. They are random. What we were gunning for is that whenever we roll a die, then we gain a Eureka. That is actually the one that we wanted, but we don't get this. So yeah, what are we gonna do, right? Nothing is very, very beneficial. We don't need to gain 2 Eureka. We have an ability that gives us 3 Eureka already, so that would be useless. Then you gain 1 stack of association. That means when playing a card, you add and roll 1. We gain an additional die, right? Damage, this one here, the damage one, is something we don't need. We don't ever want to actively play a card to deal damage. So we take this one in the middle to obtain an additional die. That would help us the most. And we can use this card for free every single turn, so we don't need to waste any resources. Here we have red die, we re-roll them. And yeah, normally, right now, whenever we re-roll a die, we would gain a Eureka. That would be the buff that we wanted to take. Unfortunately, we didn't hit it. So now I have 4 yellow die. I would like to get at least 1 blue to use my ability Creator to gain 1 Eureka. So since this is my last chance to re-roll, I choose to do 2 yellow die and hope I get at least 1 blue out of it. There we go. Then I get a stack of further troops by using this card. Boom. I actually made a very stupid mistake, but it's no problem because I have a purple die that I can also use as a blue die. That kinda saves me a little bit here. And I can use my ability, I get an additional die. There we go. So I can use these 2, I gain Eureka. Yeah, let's gain armor 2 times, cause be a little bit safe. Now, yeah, you have to keep in mind that you have to gain your stacks of further troops every single battle again, right? So you want to make sure that you get that very, very fast. Like you want like at least 3 stacks of further troops at round 2. And then again, don't forget to re-roll your die. This is perfect. So let's gain stacks of further troops this time. Don't use the blue one. Yeah, it's actually smart to gain a further stack of further troops and then just gain armor once, you know. Again, that is very, very important to put a lot of emphasis on that. Is that you in the very first turn and the second turn gain as much stacks of further troops as possible. You will need them as the battle progresses. And yeah, also, if you don't get the buff that you want, like I did, then yeah, don't forget to use this ability in New Reality. I totally forgot to use this last round. Here we go, 2 blue, 2 yellow, that means no red. Happy with the outcome. If you get the buff that you need, you have to re-roll every single time 3 times, right? Don't forget about that. So let me get further stacks of further troops. No pun intended. I have now 4 stacks. That is usually enough. Now we can focus on getting Eureka and armor. And you see, like, yeah, we deal damage, we gain armor, just like that, without actually actively using an ability that would deal damage, right? We never use this red card commentator. And that's the whole strategy. Unfortunately, you can't see right now how it would look like if we actually have the perfect setup. That's a little bit unfortunate, but not a big deal. If you get access to this buff that I'm talking about, then you will see that this is even more nuts. Eureka dice can be, yeah, this is all these appearances here. Eureka dice can be considered as attack or defense dice. This is also very, very beneficial because now I can use the red die as like a blue die, for example. You know, it makes me a little bit more consistent. But yeah, this is not what I usually want. don't worry, like in the end I will show you how the perfect setup, how it looks with the perfect setup. I will do another one. So again, we have red die, we don't want that, we reroll. We got 4 new red die, it's actually unbelievable. This is what we want. And then, yeah, we gain stacks of further truth. This time let me actually get 2, and we gain a little bit of armor. Oh yeah, I have 1 more die. I forgot about this ability. But yeah, it is pretty useless. Here we go, reroll the red die. There we go, gain a stack of further truths. Now make sure you also gain Eureka. Don't forget about the extra die, and there you go. We could also gain another stack of further truths. Oh, we gain armor. She will deal 6 damage to us. We have 6 armor. So yeah, let's go for a further stack of further truths. Yeah, this is also always a thing that you can have an eye on. See what your enemy is up to a little bit, you know. I saw she will deal 6 damage to me. I had 6 armor, so I knew I'm gonna be fine and I don't lose any HP, and that's why I could obtain myself a further stack of further truths. Yeah, we can't re-roll the red die this time, so it's whatever. Let's roll an additional die. There we go. How many stacks do we have? We want like 5, 6. Yeah, we can gain 1 more. Like that. Then gain the Eureka that we so desperately want. I have to use this one. Okay, then I can do it like this. Right now we are at 5 Eureka. So if we could gain 3 Eureka again, that would mean that we deal 3 times 8 damage. Now the Eureka that you have, I think it carries over to the next battle. So then next battle I can show you how this would look like if we deal 8 damage per access Moxie that we gain. Your armor does not carry over to the next battle, by the way. Oh, Eureka. Yeah, see, like we just don't get the buff that we are hunting for, but it will be no problem. Up to the next battle. You see, this was an absolute walk in the park so far, and this battle will prove to be no different. The Eureka does not carry over. That is also a very important note to have. So yeah, reroll the red die. We got a blue one. Perfect, we take that. Gain stacks of further truth. As many of them as possible, actually. I would like to gain 3 Eureka, or should I go for armor? See, what is he up to? I don't think he will deal actual damage, so I go for stacks of further truth here. As many of them as I can in round 1. And a few in round 2. Okay, what this would give me a yellow one, that would be perfect. Okay, cool. Now I can see he will deal 40 damage to me next round. That is a tremendously high amount of damage. So I would like to gain some armor here. How many stacks do I have? 3. I want more. So let me do this. Actually like to stack up on some Eureka, but I can do this next round. Yeah, let me gain a further stack of further troops. And now it's time to stack up on some armor. because he will do a tremendous amount of damage to me next round. Yeah, let's gain the armor. Yeah, 43, that's fine. That's too many red die. Yeah, see, normally if we get like the buff that we want, every time we reroll this, we deal damage. It would be out of control, even more out of control. How many stacks do we have? 5. Let me get one more. And now I can also focus on getting Eureka. And armor. And again, we keep dealing damage whenever our Eureka changes. The more stacks of Further Truth we have, the more this happens. And, well, also, like, don't forget about that, you always also gain armor. You can see I have 31 armor right now. Because this Further Truths card, whenever it triggers, it gives me 2 armor. So I have a bunch of, if I have a bunch of stacks of it, like 6 stacks right now, whenever I change my Eureka, I get like 12 armor right now. You see 50 armor. Like nothing would ever hurt me now. And the damage is very, very great. And this is that is not even the ultimate setup, right? We missed the buff. Don't forget about that. And yeah, this is like the combination that I want to show you. We will still play this battle out to the end, so that you can like truly see how easy this is. You see, once you have enough stacks, like 5 or 6 stacks of this Further Truth, nothing can hurt you anymore. You are invincible. You know, but why not keep getting stacks here and there? Then increase my Eureka and gain armor. And that's really about it. That's the whole strategy. Basically what it comes down to is stack Further Truths. And then gain Eureka and armor. But not too difficult, you know, not too complicated, not too tough to understand. Everyone can do it. And also, like, no matter which one of those captains or alephs, I should say, you take, you can always play this strategy just with this version of the idealist, is what it's called. That is the most efficient one, because you can just much more consistently make it happen that you change your Eureka. So you will gain much more armor and you will have much more damage if you choose this version. But you can do it with every single version. And what you also could do is, like, just in case you don't get the buffs that you want, you don't get the Further Truths buff, or the one that you, whenever you roll, re-roll a dice you get a Eureka. If you don't get access to these buffs, in like after like the first 2 battles, you don't have one of those, just start all over again. Yep, I'm happy with those die. Let me gain a stack. Should I gain Eureka or armor? Let me actually get a die. Ah, that's bad. I can get Eureka that way and a little bit of armor. Yeah, and you can see, like, it is actually pretty detrimental if we don't get this buff of getting a Eureka every time we re-roll a dice. It is pretty detrimental because we do never get to access Moxie. So we actually miss out on a tremendously high amount of damage. It is pretty sad. But it is this one here, this is still a very, very good showcase, because you can see how this works, even if we are not even close to the most efficient, to the most efficiency that we could be, you know. See, 40 damage. Ah, yeah, he gets rid of all my armor. That's pretty sad. Yeah, let me reroll this. I need a blue one, actually. Oh, come on. Oh, man. He takes 8 stacks of it. Yeah, I think we can kill him this round. Pretty sure we can. Let me think. Yeah, this. Yeah, now I just keep getting armor and he will go down. You can see the amount of damage, you can see the amount of armor that we get. And we even lacked a huge buff that we normally would want to have. So, there you go. But let me now play this again and actually try to unlock the buff that I was talking about. And then showcased one battle to you once I did it. So give me a second, please. Now, if here's further truths. So now I can showcase a battle in which I have both of these buffs and show you how out of control this is. So let me re-roll my red die. I don't get Eureka because I don't have a stack, right? Remember that? Yeah, okay, cool. We are golden here. So first thing I do is I gain stacks of further truth. See, it recommends me to take the blue die, but I want the blue die to be able to gain a stack of introspection. I need that. So I would use 2 yellow die for the stack of further truths as well. And I can get a further stack of further truths. Let me save my blue die again. Yeah, I mean the purple one would also do it, but you know, better be safe than sorry, you get the point. And 1 stack of introspection. And that is your first turn. Every time. And now you are already like set up very, very, very well to deal a lot of damage. So, by the way, a side note from introspection. You don't get 1 Eureka for each die you reroll, right? You get just 1 Eureka. See, I have 1 Eureka. I reroll my dice once, 2 Eureka. And now, see, because my Eureka changes, the stacks of further truth that I have, they trigger. Since I have 2, that triggers twice every single time. I gain a Eureka, boom, 6 damage and 4 armor. I do it again. Like even if you don't have red die or something, you re-roll any die, right? You just re-roll to trigger the stacks of further truth. Boom, boom, and you gain a Eureka from introspection. So now you gain further stacks, right? You want like 1 or 2 more. So you do that. Boom. Now introspection, you can get, it is perfectly fine to have just 1 or maybe 2, right? What you truly want to stack is further truths. Now, let me show you what happens when I use my ability Creator. Because I gain access Moxico, 8 damage. 8 damage, 3 damage, 3 damage, 3 damage, and armor, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, every time. Here, plus 7 armor, minus 1 Eureka, and all my stacks of Further Truth hit. 3 damage, 3 damage, 3 damage, 1000 armor, you know? And that's how you go. Like, you will deal damage, tremendously high amount of damages, while also gaining a whole bunch of armor. Boom, you see? At the end of every round, 3 damage for each of my Eureka as well. It keeps happening. Boom, 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 non-stop. It's raining down on the enemy. And this is how you play. Nothing else here matters, you know? Let's gain an additional die, because why not? So yeah, first round, reroll the red die, see what you get, and then go from there. Now, again, don't use the blue. Don't use the blue keys. Use the red one, and then whenever you have the most of it, but don't use the blue one, because you need this for introspection and creator. So, that's 1 stack. Boom. That's 2 stacks. Boom. Let me gain a stack of introspection. Yeah, you always want to get one of those stacks in the very first turn, so that it triggers immediately at the second round when you reroll your dice. So that's why it's very, very important to get 1 stack. Boom. Now, yeah, you could gain armor, or you could skip to save the Eureka. That is up to you, it depends. And this, you can check, you know? Playing a card, and like I most of the times I get the armor right away a little bit, because it also triggers the stacks of Further Truth that I just got, and this gives me additional armor. So I play it safe, but you could play it aggressive and save the 1 Eureka you have, so that you deal 3 more damage, right? And again, now, every time we reroll a die, Further Truth, stacks happening, we gain armor, we deal damage, we gain Eureka. Again, and again. Now, gain further stacks of Further Truths. Don't use the purple die. Boom. Now, we can gain Eureka. Excess Eureka, in fact. 8 damage, 8 damage, 3 damage, 3 damage, 3 damage. Armor galore, you know? And that's really all about there's to say about this. You can see how ridiculous this is, and how overpowered this is. You become unkillable, and you deal damage passively. And that's all I wanted to show you guys. I hope that was fun and informative. If you like Reverse 1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate that. But until next time, take care of yourselves, have a great day, and you guessed it, we love this game.